Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jeremy from Dynamic Balance Chiropractic. I'm here today to talk about shoulder issues. Shoulder issues are so common these days. It always has been a problem for our modern lifestyle, but it seems like now with a couple years of lockdowns and then even our busy stress life coming back into the groove, it seems like shoulder issues are becoming more and more prevalent, especially now at the end of winter where we've been even more locked up inside. The problem comes about in a lot of ways from our postural loads in our modern lifestyle. It's just simply not evolutionarily consistent with the way our bodies are supposed to work. What happens is everything from emotional stress bringing us in, time on our phones, time at a laptop, driving, cooking, eating, cleaning, everything is down and in front, which brings our head and our shoulders forward into this flexed posture. This affects us in a few ways, but I want you to understand first, unless we address that postural concern, the shoulder issue will stay around for longer, and no matter what, it will come back even if you get the symptoms under control in the short term. So what happens here, we got a few things as that posture comes in. First off, your head goes forward. As your head is coming forward, this really compromises the lower neck, specifically C4 to T1. C5 and C6 are all of the nerve supply to the rotator cuff that maintains the stability of the shoulder. It's also going to refer pain down inside the shoulder blade from that same level. When that happens, that's further going to push the shoulder blades forward from a comfort perspective. So then the third, which is even more important, is that it rocks the shoulder forward with it. The shoulder blade, the scapula, slides forward. The stability of the shoulder relies on the rotator cuff. Rotator cuff is four muscles that all start from the shoulder blade. So as your head and shoulder blade come forward, we've lost the neurological supply. We now have pain that interferes with proper scapular function in the back, and then we lose stability of the rotator cuff. Once we lose that stability in the rotator cuff, the deltoid's bigger and on top, and it's going to pull. And what happens is we get superior migration of the humerus, impinging on the acromion, this little thing that sticks off of the shoulder blade. In that gap in between, we have the bicep tendon and the supraspinatus tendon. Those account for a lot of the painful situations we see in shoulder issues. Long story short, no matter what we do in the short term or long term to get symptoms under control, if we don't address the postural concern, this issue will come back. So, what do we do in the short term to address the symptoms and get some function better? It has to work better in order to feel better. So let's start by making it work better. The posture that we find ourselves in most frequently, as I mentioned, is that forward flexion. Whether this is simply deconditioning from sitting so much, or because our work or our studying or our habits bring it about, we have to address the ability for our thoracic cage to open up and our shoulders to slide back and our head to get back over our shoulder. Sometimes this is really hard, especially if we've been in this pattern for a really long time. So one of the things that we'll teach often seems really remedial, but it's simply what we call a sternal lift. So what happens is we want you to exaggerate that slouched position. You really come forward, head and shoulders forward. And we want to reorient the thoracic cage, the rib cage, into a more vertical fashion as we let the shoulders come back and the head up over the shoulders. So what we do in the sternal lift, the sternum's right in front. Think about lifting that vertically, engaging some of the muscles at the bottom portion of the thoracic spine, right where it meets up with the lumbars, in order to bring that about. As we do this, we want to really accentuate that muscle contraction in the back. Think about taking your bottom tips of the shoulder blades down toward where a bra clasp would be. Really accentuate the slouch. Bring that up. Think about a string attached to the top of your sternum, lifting straight up to the ceiling. Really lift that up and engage those muscles in the back. Hold it for just a couple seconds, then release. Do that for several repetitions, 10 or 12 reps. This won't take too long. Hold it for a couple seconds. You can do this at work, in the car, at a stoplight, wherever you are. That's called the sternal lift. As we start to address the postural loads and this chronic patterning that the shoulder blade has, we have to start to free up some mobility for the scapula, for the shoulder blade, to do the normal functions that it needs to do in order to prevent dysfunction in the shoulder. It needs to lift up out of the way as you raise your arm, for example, so that we don't pinch that bicep tendon and the supraspinatus at the top. One of the ways we do this is to work on this overhead scapular release. And how we do this, I use a box. You can also use an ottoman, a bench press, a bench from the bench press. You can use really anything, even a coffee table at home. We want to go elbows up toward the ceiling, thumbs up, fingers interlaced, elbows on the box or on that surface. And really what we're trying to do, lock out those elbows pointed up, and we're going to drop the chest, drop the sternum, drop the rib cage down in between. Feel that stretch. You're going to feel it in your mid-back, on the bottom side of the shoulder through here. And just to let that, to allow that to drop down in, and you're going to work for up to about 2 minutes on this stretch. It's longer, but you got to hold it for that long. If you feel pinching on the front side of that bicep tendon or overt pain as opposed to a stretch, let's hold off. We're not quite ready for that. Consult us and we'll do some work first to be able to get you to this point. With sustained postural loads, we often get really tight on the back side of the capsule that surrounds the shoulder and the posterior musculature of the shoulder. Our next step is to release some of that tension on the back side. What we're going to do is we're going to have you go on your back with your knees bent, feet flat on the floor. The small of your back is where we're going to focus on putting our hands. We're going to stack the hands on top of each other. Doesn't matter which one's which. Stack the hands, put them right behind the back. This stabilizes and localizes as we push the shoulder blades back down toward the floor. This is really going to stretch the posterior side of the shoulder. You may even feel tension on the side or on the shoulder that's not bothering you. This is totally normal as those postural patterns are balanced and bilateral. Again, hold this one for 2 minutes as you drive your shoulder blades down toward a bra clasp location and back into the floor. Many of us have been dealing with some postural loads that are pretty rough for a long time, where we're flexed forward, whether that is just the way that we started out developmentally, we didn't change that all the way through school into adulthood. Either way, wherever we are now, if we're stuck with this thoracic flexion, we really need to reset that to allow the shoulder to work properly. What we're going to work on right now is this thoracic extension, allowing the rib cage and the thoracic spine to open a bit more. I use a foam roller here. This is really easy because you can position it. You can also use a rolled up towel or another small, like a bolster or other small, relatively soft object to bend back over. Similar to the last exercise, we're going to go on your back, feet flat, and we're going to allow that block to work as a fulcrum as we work our way back, trying to open up the chest and allowing the thoracic spine to extend. You can reposition several different times as you work your way up and down the thoracic spine. Bringing your arms out to the side or up above helps to stretch out the pecs on the front side as well. Spend about 2 minutes working your way up and down the thoracic spine as you do this. You may hear little clicks and pops as we regain some mobility in the middle of the back. That's okay too as you go. Be cautious of overexertion. Take slow, deep breaths. Don't hold your breath. Your face will turn red, veins will pop, and all that stuff. Just be cautious with that one, but overall, work to really open things up and get that extension. The postural loads that affect shoulder function from our lifestyle can be referred to as upper cross syndrome, where certain things are tight, other things are stretched out and weak. One of the things that gets really, really tight in this situation is the pecs. That whole pec family needs to be stretched out in order to let the shoulder blade come back. So you can use a door frame for this. I just use the rig in my basement as we go forward. What we're going to do is anchor the forearm from the elbow up, go about horizontal. You're going to anchor that so that it can't rotate. We're going to put that side, that foot forward and lean into that, allowing the shoulder to come back, stretching out the pec on the front side. Spend about 2 to 3 minutes as you go through this, modifying the angle to find those areas that are really, really tight. As you go and change the angle of your arm, the connection point and where those muscle fibers go, reorient. So different locations of your arm stretch different areas of the pec musculature. You're going to work through that whole range and open things up that allow the shoulder blade to come back through there. Lean into it, don't rotate, don't twist. Again, if you feel pinching there, back off. You should feel a nice broad tension through here, no overt pain. 2 to 3 minutes, make sure you do both sides. Continuing to work with shoulder mobility and scapular mobility, we go on to what we call the band pass-through. So this is just an elastic band. You can use a broomstick, you can use a dowel, you can use whatever you like. I like the band to provide a little bit of resistance as we go through. Essentially what we're looking to do is the full and complete motion of scapular patterning as we go around. Again, this is one where you may hear little clicks and pops and things, especially at the beginning as you're first working on your mobility. A lot of people find it really difficult in getting behind their back because of the tension in the pecs on the front side. So the pec stretch that we talked about in the last segment become really important in being able to work up to do this sort of action. So continue the band pass through for 15 reps or a minute. You can do it by time or by rep count, really allowing things to focus on and work on getting the hands back, getting the arms back, and feeling that stretch on the front side as you go through. It's going to be really easy on the front side. The difficult part is in the back. So controlled motion, don't let it flop, don't let the band control you. Control the resistance the whole way through. As I mentioned, one of the things that we have to start with is scapular mobility and scapular stability. So we need the motion, we need it to be able to go through its normal motor pathways, but then we also need to be able to strengthen it in those pathways. This next exercise you can do with broom handle again, you can do with the yoga strap. I use a band in this situation. We are going to go face down in a prone position, and we're going to use the band to start working on strengthening the lower traps and some of those supporting musculature of the shoulder blade. So you're going to go face down into a Y position, and you're going to do a pull down in that position. So arms up above, and then you pull that down behind the back as low as you can go, activating the lower traps, bringing the shoulder blades down toward the broad clasp position or location. We're going to go 15 to 18 reps or 60 seconds, whichever you prefer. As we continue to strengthen the scapular musculature, specifically that middle and lower trapezius, on this exercise, we're going to place your feet about 2 feet, 1.5 to 2 feet away from the wall, leaning back, elbows at your side at about a 40-degree angle, 45-degree angle, and you're going to use your elbows and those muscles along the inside of the shoulder blades to push away from the wall. So you're just going to bring the shoulder blades together, push yourself out and away, and then let it come back. This one's going to seem really remedial until you start to get to higher rep counts. Again, by the time you're at number 15 to 18 or so, you should feel some effort in those muscles. Focus on proper form. Don't let things go off. Really pay attention to what you're doing and what muscles you're trying to make work. Keep the shoulders open and back as you go through this process. In order for the shoulder to perform properly, we need to strengthen some of the key areas, specifically the lower traps and the serratus anterior that comes from the shoulder blade around to the front. Those two things allow the shoulder blade to go through its normal motion, bringing that acromion process up out of the way as we go through normal shoulder motion. How we strengthen that serratus anterior, one of the best exercises for this is called the push-up plus. Really what we're going to do is go into a plank or push-up position, and we're going to perform push-ups without bending our elbows. So into that push-up position, spread the shoulder blades apart and push your spine up toward the ceiling, and then let it sink down in as you bring your shoulder blades together. And then push it all the way up, spreading the shoulder blades out, and then bring the shoulder blades down and in, down toward the broad clasp as we sink the sternum down toward the floor. Repeat this motion as we go through. This is working that tip that goes from the bottom of the shoulder blade down onto the rib cage. If you look at somebody without their shirt on, it's that jagged muscle underneath, hence the name, that serratus or tooth-like appearance. Down, shoulder blades come in together, down toward the broad clasp, and then out and apart as we go up. You want to perform as many reps as you can, about 15 to 18 or as long as you have good form. Don't let the shoulder blades creep up. We want to keep those down and back as they come down and spread them wide as you push up. Side plank is a great scapular stability exercise. We want to go into that side plank posture, drive the arm down toward the floor, lifting the body away from the floor, activating all the supporting musculature of the shoulder. We're going to work up to 60 seconds. Start shorter if you need to, then switch to the other side. Just like the push-up plus was a push-up without bending the elbows, we're going to work on another one that is a pull-up without bending the elbows. We're working on that articular pattern, that articular rotation of the shoulder blade sliding along the rib cage under a load. This is best done with a chin-up bar where you can still have your feet on the floor. You can do this without hanging as you go through the scapular pattern. You're just going to let yourself hang, bringing the shoulder blades up And then slide those shoulder blades down and back toward the bra clasp location, and then let it come back down through. This is a controlled articular rotation as we allow the shoulder blade to go through its normal motion all the way up. Let it feel that stretch at the top, and then all the way down, and really feel that muscle contraction at the bottom. We're going to work 15 to 18 reps with this as you go through. Again, really accentuate the pattern and focus on what you're feeling. Get connected with what your shoulder's up to. So you're not just going through the motion, you're understanding what's going on so that you can know and prevent this dysfunction in the future. 15 to 18 reps. If you're feeling pinching on the top because of that hang, you're not quite ready for that, chat with us and we'll help fix it up. As we continue to strengthen supporting musculature of the scapula on the back side, we're going to go through this supine, knees bent, feet flat on the floor, karate chop hands with the thumb surface on the floor. We're going to go in a Y position as we start, bringing that sliding all the way down into T and then kind of a W position as we go through, really feeling those muscles contract between the shoulder blades and down along the thoracic spine. Really pull down as you get to the bottom of those reps, bringing your elbows in close to the side. Feeling those muscles contract between the shoulder blade and the spine. Repeat for 15 to 18 reps. Most of the exercises we're teaching you for shoulder rehab and strengthening don't require a lot of equipment. For this one though, we do need a resistance band or some tubing. We're going to use this to work on strengthening all along the musculature of the inside of the shoulder blade as it connects to the spine and rib cage. So we're going to go horizontally, hold this, and we're going to bring those two hands apart. You can focus on your hands coming apart, but really what we want to accomplish is this consciousness, focusing on your shoulder blades come together, and more specifically, the muscles that bring them together. Really focusing on activating that middle portion of the trapezius and the rhomboids that bring the shoulder blades together. Really fire those up as they get to the back and feel that contraction as you go through. We're going to go 15 to 18 reps here. If it's really easy by the end of that, your resistance isn't quite high enough, so you can grab a little closer together on your band to get that resistance that you need. Once you get to that 15 to 18 reps, we're just simply going to turn. We're going to go one arm up, one arm down, and go through that process again. This is going to work different angles and different portions of those muscles on the back side. Again, feeling those activate. Really focus on the back side and those muscles bringing the shoulder blades toward the spine. Once you get to that 15 to 18 reps, other way. We're going to take that opposite, up and down. Again, bringing those apart, feeling the muscles contracting on the back side as we go through. 15 to 18 reps on that one. As we continue to work on strengthening the back side of the shoulders, again, the scapular stability, but on this one, we're actually going to start to work on some of the rotator cuff as well, specifically that infraspinatus and some of the external rotators. So this one, we have a very light resistance band. We're going to grab that here, bring it just apart a little bit, so maybe 15 to 30 degrees. We're going to go back against the wall, elbows nice and tight, keeping that external rotation, that little bit of tension. We're going to slowly bring the arms up to bring those hands overhead. So this is working on that scapular pattern of motion that we've been addressing, but then also accentuating those external rotators of the shoulder as we go through. You really have to focus on this one to keep that pattern good. Keep against the wall, keep the external rotation, control the motion in a slow, smooth pattern. By the time you get to 12 to 15 reps, you should really be feeling some fatigue and some burn on this one. Again, no pinching, no pain, but effort and burn. This next one, we're going to continue to use the wall, and we're going to continue to work on the scapular muscles, but we're shifting up a little bit higher. This one, I call the diamond V. I don't know what it's really called. We're going to go facing toward the wall, arms above your head, make that diamond with your hands. And as you go through this, you're going to bring your arms away from the wall. These really simple exercises as far as scapular patterning often seem really, really easy until you start to do them. And then you realize what you're activating and how deconditioned or inhibited those neurological patterns and those muscles can be. This one, make sure you get to that 15 to 18 rep count and bring that in. Even though it seems easy, you're waking up some of those muscles that have been lazy for probably years. For this next one, we're going to combine using two pieces of equipment that are very, very valuable in this process. This is a mini band. We're going to use that on our forearms and our old foam roller here to work on the scapular pattern, that shoulder blade pattern of motion, with some resistance into external rotation. So we're going to put that foam roller against the wall, spread our mini band on the forearms, externally rotate, so we're pushing our wrists apart as we bring your elbows up and go through that scapular pattern of motion. The external rotation will activate the back side of the shoulder and really reinforce that pattern of scapular motion. As you're doing this, you may feel that on the back side of the shoulder. You may feel it also at the bottom of the rib cage where the lumbar spine meets up with the thoracic spine because of that flexion. Keep going. We're activating the right supporting musculature to keep doing what we need to do. As I was showing you, that can be done on the wall or on the floor. Shifting down onto the floor, it looks like this. If you've had some work done on your shoulder before, whether that's through chiropractic, massage, or other methods, physiotherapy, you know that the back side of the shoulder can get really tight and really sensitive and tender. But what we also know is that fibrotic musculature that's so sore does need to be released in order to have proper fluid motion to be able to do all of these things, to gain the mobility and stability that we need. A couple of my favorite tools as far as doing this stuff on your own in between is the lacrosse ball and the foam roller. Lacrosse ball we can put in any location we need to and use our body weight or some resistance to dig into some of those fibrotic muscles. You can put that on the floor and work through some of those muscles as we go through. The posterior shoulder, as we go through some of the exercises I've been showing you in these segments, we can work on releasing that back side of the shoulder with just our body weight on the foam roller as we go through some of these motions. Find those sore spots where things have gotten fibrotic and sore and just work through that. Again, you shouldn't have overt pain, but definitely soreness and tenderness. As we do that, we'll break up some of that cross-bridging and fibrosis with the muscles and really get some better mobility.